So let's just talk about React higher order component, or in short we call them HOC. So the higher order component basically a design pattern in React, and this pattern is mainly focused on reusing the component logic. So we can define one higher order component, and the component can take other components as a parameter, and then it can return a new component, and the new component can contain some additional behavior and functionality. So with this higher order component we can prevent the code duplication. So the higher order component will wrap some other component, and then it just enhances the capability of this new component by injecting some additional props or state or even some additional logic. And it is important to understand that the higher order component does not modify the original components that it takes as argument. It always returns new component with some added logic and behavior. So here we have one simple React application with the click counter and the hover counter component. So the click counter basically counts the number of times clicked on that component. Similarly, the hover counter also counts the number of times we hover over that component. So both of these components has the counting similarity, and here you can notice both of the components has the state and the increment count function. So here we have this code duplication problem. Now we can solve this code duplication by using the higher order component, where we can have this common counting capability. So let's see how we can do that. So here we can create one higher order component. So we're gonna call this with counter. So let's now define the higher order component. So this component will take another component as argument, and then it will modify that component and will return a new component with some additional capabilities. So let's now create that new component. So the new component will have its own props. Now here inside we have to add this counting capabilities. So we're gonna remove this count state and the increment count function from both of these components, and we're gonna use that right here inside this higher order component. Now we're gonna return that wrapped component. We're gonna add some additional capability. So we're gonna pass the count value, and also we're gonna pass the increment count function, and then we're gonna spread the props of that component. So this higher order component is taking other components as argument, and then it is returning one new component with this counting capability. So here we're gonna return the new component that we have created, and at the end we have to export this higher order component so that we can use that in other components. So here we're gonna export this, export default with counter. So let's now use that in this click counter. So here while exporting the click counter, all we have to do is wrap this, and we have to pass that to the higher order component with counter. So the higher order component will return a new component where the new component is receiving the count and the increment count function. So we can destructure those properties. So here we're gonna destructure the count and the increment count so that we can use them right here on click of this button. Similarly, also we're gonna do the same to the hover counter. So here we're gonna pass the hover counter as an argument to the higher order component with counter, and then it will receive the count and the increment count function as a props, and then we can use them right here in that component. So now you can see our application is working properly. So our click counter is working properly, and also the hover counter is also working properly. But this time we do not have any code duplication. So the counting is taken care by this higher order component. So this way now we can have multiple other components, and we can add the counting capabilities to that component. Simply we have to pass that component to this higher order component, And most importantly, this way we can prevent code duplication across multiple components. So this way we can use the higher order components in React, and we can reuse some logic across multiple components. So hope you understand the concept. See you in the next one. Take care.